Welcome back to the Mason's Arms. My name is Angela Kane, and today I will be presenting the final session, the third session on legislation, covering all aspects of food and drink. So food safety and hygiene is regulated by environmental health. And if you intend to sell food or drink, or provide food and drink, or provide a hamper for guests that are staying in catering accommodation, you'll need to be aware of the legislation surrounding food and drink. There are 7 issues that you need to consider if you are intending to prepare and handle food. These are contamination, temperature controls, storage and preservation, personal hygiene, pest control, cleaning and disinfection, and food safety management. So what you'll need to do is ensure that everyone who handles the food has the appropriate training, supervision and instructions in food hygiene. Complete the relevant Food Standards Agency management pack. That's the Safer Food, Better Business one. This pack gives essential advice and helps you to assess whether you or your employees require food hygiene training. You'll also need to write a food safety management procedure, and that will relate to all the specific circumstances of your business. You'll need to complete a registration form, and it's available on the website of your local authority. Then submit this food registration form to your local authority at least 28 days before your business starts trading. Registration carries no charge, it's free and can't be refused. It can't be refused because it's not a licence or a permission, it's merely a registration. So there's a few things for you to have a think about in order to minimise the risk. So your food preparation area, is it large enough to prevent cross-contamination? And it'll need to be a suitable surface to allow for effective cleaning. So store and handle raw foods and ready-to-eat foods separately. You'll need to provide a basin for hand washing and a separate facility for washing food and equipment. Cook food thoroughly and then cool it down quickly, and keep chilled food below 8 degrees Celsius. Use foods within their use-by date. If you prepare food on site that isn't eaten immediately, record the date on it, and then that way you can ensure you're not keeping it for too long. Don't handle food if you're unwell or sick. You'll need to determine which ingredients in your foods can cause allergic reactions so that you can advise your customers. I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail later on. Clean surfaces with hot soapy water, followed by a sanitizer. All staff will need to be trained so they know how to handle food safely. So that's the environmental health bit. They're responsible for food hygiene and safety. And then trading standards are responsible for legislation relating to food labelling and composition. So the law sets out rules that cover the preparation, composition and labelling of food supplied for human consumption. In broad terms, that means that the quality of the food must meet the expectation of the consumer. It must be as described and not presented in a way that misleads the consumer. And you can't add anything to food or remove anything that would make it harmful to health. Food labelling. The law sets out what is required to be shown on food packaging. This is to allow consumers to make informed choices, and there's different labelling requirements for food. Firstly, if food is pre-packed, that's food that's supplied to you already packaged. If it's non-pre-packed, that's food that's sold unwrapped, for example in restaurants, bakeries, deli counters. And then there's pre-packed for direct sale, and that's food that's wrapped on the same premises that it's sold. So if you make sandwiches and then pack them, put them on a shelf, that's pre-packed for direct sale. Durability dates. These are very important. So a best before date relates to the quality of the food. And what that does is it gives you the date which the food will be at optimum quality for that period of time. And you are allowed to sell food after its best before date. Use by dates relate to the safety of the food, and can be really harmful if eaten after that date. So you cannot sell food, a use-by date food, after that date. Providing food allergen information is really important. There's a list of 14 food allergens, and the presence of which must always be brought to the attention of the consumer. There's a number of ways in which allergen information can be provided to your customers, and again this depends on how the food is provided. So food which is pre-packed or pre-packed for direct sale must have a full ingredients list on the packaging, and any allergenic ingredients must be emphasised every time they appear in the ingredients list. A non-pre-packed food, or food that's sold loose, has fewer labelling requirements than those that are pre-packed. You must still inform customers of the allergens that are present in the food, but there's a number of various ways you can do this. So you can have a notice in close proximity to the product, inviting the customers to ask a member of staff for allergen information. So for example, just a notice that says, please ask us about allergens in our food. You can have a shelf edge label, or you can still have a label attached to the product. So these are the 14 allergens that you'll need to be aware of and need to record and list on your ingredients list. It's quite a long list, there's 14 of them, and what's really useful is if you go to the Food Standards Agency website and you can print off this poster or guidance and then pop it up in the shop so that you've always got it there. There's lots of information and resources about allergens on the Food Standards Agency website, and also a training module aimed at businesses, so that's really useful. So we've talked about how you've got to let customers know what allergens are in the food, but you're under no legal obligation to provide allergen-free food. However, if you do agree to produce a meal that's allergen-free, you have to ensure that the meal has got no allergenic ingredients in, and ensure that that food is not contaminated with any allergen in question. And only if you're completely sure and confident that you can produce an allergen-free meal should you do so. If not, then refuse the request. You've got to try all you can to prevent cross-contamination, and there's certain practical steps you can take to avoid accidental contamination with allergens. These include having separate kitchen areas, separate chopping blocks, utensils, etc. for the preparation of food containing allergens. Thoroughly wash all your chopping boards and utensils once they've been used to prepare meals containing allergens, and store ingredients and prepared foods separately in closed containers, and keeping ingredients that contain allergens separate from any other ingredients. So while these precautions are relatively simple, it can be impractical for some small businesses to follow them. So if it's not possible to guarantee that there's no allergen cross-contamination, you may place a notice on display to the effect, for example, allergen advice. Due to the way our food is prepared, it is not possible to guarantee the absence of allergens in our products. This statement should then be displayed at each place the customer can place the order. So that's it for the final session on legislation, and I do hope you found the session interesting and useful.